Oh
Yes.
no.
Oh no, there's been an Ecamm update, so it was a different UI. But yes, it looks like
Okay.
we are live right now. It's that time of the week. It's that time for Geek Speak, and today we are talking about the process and the workflows for getting your website from idea to launch.
Yes, we
And
are.
yeah, so my name is Phelan. I work at Seymour Digital Media. We're focused on search engine marketing.
And my name is Rena Little from Littleworks ND Media, and we have a small digital marketing company that focuses on websites, among other things.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm just checking with that we are live. It looks like it's good. Please let us know if the audio is being weird, but everything looks good on my end. So, yeah. But yeah, so we wanted to hop on because it's definitely one. Everyone kind of needs a website, and so we know that at the best of times, it could be a bit of a pain to get one built. So we just kind of wanted to talk through the way you go from basically just saying to someone or even wanting to build your own, what are the steps that I need to do to get this built? And especially when you're working with an agency where they're going to take your idea and of building a website and make it actually happen.
Yes. Um, and that is actually step number one is understanding the expectations at the beginning. And usually an agency will help you through that. But the one thing that I always find amusing is that we're always working on multiple projects at once. There's never just one website. If we've sent you an estimate, and I know I'm not alone in this, we've sent out 20 estimates. And
Yeah.
so what that if when you want to move on something, you need to get that deposit down because or the first payment down because that's what's going to get your project scheduled. So it's not something like I have had the last few clients uh, think that when they wait until they're ready for the project themselves and then they give me the money and want me to start immediately. And in their mind, that's sort of the process. But really, that's not realistic. Most good agencies are scheduling things throughout the year, and they
Yeah.
might even make you wait a couple of months to get started. Generally you can there's a little bit of leeway, and then also the expectations of when things should be completed are always a little bit off. Sometimes I've gotten my timelines down really nicely and really worked on that last year, tracking everything and getting my systems organized better. So it's not going to be a 3 to 4 week job unless unless someone's doing a rush job for you. You can get a site, especially a new site, organized in that time frame if the client is able to provide the content immediately. But the design and the development process can definitely happen in that time. There is the time that it takes to do something, and then there is the duration of the days that you can schedule that do something over. So, for example, it does absolutely take, we usually take about 4 hours to do a homepage development
Yeah.
with two ways. But it's going to take a week and a half usually to get the client feedback and change requests and things like that before we can establish the homepage. So it's not that it just takes a couple of hours. It's that we need feedback from the client and we need that constant back and forth between the clients. So we check in with them. We do the and we should start with the first part. So we've got the deposit. We've
Yeah.
scheduled the project, the start project. It usually starts with a kickoff session, or someone might call it a discovery session or call it something else. But really, you want to be sitting down with your provider and giving them all of the information at the upside so that there's not a lot of change requests even needed as you go through. So the things that I like to do, my kickoff forms are my kickoff sessions are about an hour. Sometimes I can get it done in 30 minutes. Depends on how communicative a client is and if they've already done the thought behind it.
Yeah.
And generally, we'll give them a few questions. We'll say, hey, jump on a kickoff session or book a kickoff session. Here are the things that we're going to talk about, so that you can think about them in advance and get us some pre work so that we can take a look. So we like to know What you, if you have a site, we need to know that. Usually we can find that, but sometimes it's I've been surprised.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes businesses change their names, and you don't really know you don't know that to look for it. Um, we're going to find out, what do you have on your site, what do you want to keep on your site, what is missing from your site, have you added new services or products that are not on your site.
Yeah.
um,
Uh, I was going to say also
yeah.
one of the very top ones is, what is the purpose of the website? Are you like, is it
Yes.
e-commerce or is it lead generation? Is it both?
Yes.
So that's going to
Yes.
be another big one as well, because that's going to dictate how the rest of the workflow is going to go. Of
Yes,
just
that's exactly right. That usually we'll know that after, because I usually get that information, and I should have mentioned that in the discovery call before I do the estimate. And I know that a lot of agencies don't do anything until you've put money on the table, but we like to have a little discovery session to figure out what it is that your needs are. Do you need a new logo? Do you have a logo at all? Are you
yeah,
happy with your current branding? All that stuff. So we sit down for a few minutes and before we do the estimate, so I can organize the estimate to around those costs, for those requirements. And then, yeah, I need to know, like, how do you want your clients to contact you? What should first contact look like? Do you want them to schedule a discovery call? Do you want a buy now button? Are they just going straight to buying? Are they entering information so that you can get them an estimate? Do you want them to call? Do you like to have that kind of conversation with with your, like, I have some, particularly the sales guys. I have one guy in particular that I'm thinking about, a client, and he's selling stuff, he's selling promotional things. And so for
mm,
him, he loves getting people on a call because that's his favorite space. He can really get to know what you need, he can make suggestions that maybe you don't think you need. He can, you know, guide you in a better way with all of the um, qualifying questions that salespeople tend to ask. So it's just
yeah,
easier for him to get on a call.
yeah,
So there's that. So we need to figure that out. Then we're also going to ask about colors and, you know, that sort of stuff. Is there anything that you absolutely hate? And that's another point that I'd like to bring up, is that we don't really want to. It's not like painting your living room. You're not going to be living in your website. While it should represent your brand, and definitely there are feelings that we should have towards our brand, we should like our brand. But we also want to make sure that it's relevant, it's contemporary, it speaks to our clients, it speaks to our ideal clients and the clients that we want to attract. So we use a lot of psychology in color palette selection and font selection. So it's less about, should be less about, oh, my staff and I, we don't like this, because like is a subjective thing. If you can figure out, give me a reason why you think it doesn't work, that's great. If you want something that's slightly different, that's also fine. But I always give a little bit of pushback when I get responses like that, because we want to appeal to your ideal client, and sometimes that's just not you. Like, you're going to have different taste than that. It should
yeah,
also go with your current logo, right? We're not going to build anything that's going to be weird with your current logo. So what that means is that it has to have a color theory based relationship with the colors that you already have. So either it's analogous, or it can be complementary, or it could be something else. There are a whole bunch of different terms and how colors relate to each other on the color wheel, and we're going to use those relationships mostly, not straight up,
yeah,
because that's also a little bit boring. But we do have rules that we're following, and that probably most clients don't know about. So that's something to keep in track of. So we're going to go through. I'm going back to discovery session because I see I'm getting further ahead. The
okay, no,
discovery
no, no,
session should have all of that stuff. All of that stuff. Functionality, I'm going to ask about functionality. Do you want to have a store? I should know that already, but I probably will ask. But you might want to have a portfolio. I might suggest a portfolio. It might not be something that came up in the discovery session, but in the kickoff session, it's going to be important for me to know. So I might have looked at your material more closely, and I might suggest that, especially for people that don't think about that. Like, I did one for somebody who just recently, who does plumbing, and it's not a portfolio is not the first thing that comes to mind with plumbers, but everybody digs a good before and after picture. Am I
Yeah,
right? Can
yeah.
I get an amen in the comments?
Yeah,
Right?
I would say that for
So,
like pretty much any sort of home service, right? Countertops,
yeah, exactly.
anything where you can show like this is how dated and boring it was before. And I mean, we do it all the
Yes,
time with everyone that we work with that does the same stuff. Where it's
yes,
like, get us some content because people love that stuff. Where it's like they can actually visualize like, hey,
yeah,
they had this rundown kitchen, and then it looked like this after they were done.
yeah, yeah.
It makes it easy for other
People
people.
love that. People love that. They just love
Yeah,
that. That's some of the best social content to be had. Then once you have the discovery session, then I go away and I ask for maybe a few more details. And we go through page by page your website. Is this still relevant? Is this still relevant? Who's missing? What's missing?
yeah,
All of that stuff, and then we decide on how we're going to use. Usually, there's a little package of copywriting within my websites, and I'll usually use that to focus on the main pages, which would be the home page and the services page, because those ones are pretty important
yeah,
pages, and the about, maybe the about page too.
yeah,
So that's what we'll do, and then after the discovery, then we go back and the designer gets going with the homepage design, while I get going with the content organization and the content rewriting and all that stuff. And then we come back with two design ways for a homepage. And we don't do. I know a lot of agencies, especially bigger ones, they might do um, like what's called wireframe, where they sort of just block out with blocks where the things are going to go. I don't really do that until I have a good understanding of the content. I like to get the look of the homepage first. I know the things that I want to have on a homepage. They're fairly standard. They're going to be things like your call to action at the above the fold line. It's going to be a
yeah,
good, clear, tagline or little piece of text to get people's attention. That's going to really hit home what it is that you do in a snapshot. And then a little bit lower, it's going to be a little bit more about what you do, or why somebody wants to work with you, or what the benefit is for that client to work with you. And then it's going to sort of go more in detail of the services. So we might have like just a little couple of blurbs that go to different pages. Hopefully they're different pages because that's better for SEO. I'm just giving Pip a plug. Pip would say
yeah,
that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Am I
Sitemaps and
right, Pip?
footers. Yeah,
Each service needs its own page. I can hear Pip yelling in the background um,
yeah,
of my head. Okay, so we are going to organize the content first, and then I like to frame it out because really the who's on manning me? That must be Pip. It says Facebook
uh,
user.
yeah, yeah. Yes, that is
um,
Pip.
yeah, so I do listen, right? So basically, the point is that we want to make sure that the information gets out in a very particular way. It's got to be client driven, user driven. So it's not going to be, we are here, this is what we do. It's going to be, you are here because you want this and you need this. And it's going to be more about a benefit, and how we're going to stomp on that pain point that you have and fix that for you and do it well and all that. Maybe stomp is not the best
Yeah, yeah. Well, but
descriptive
it's
word,
the
but it's got to be right
agitate.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like problem agitate solution, right? The
Yeah.
classic copywriting,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that and I mean that's what it is. Like it does
Yeah.
agitate is the one that they go with there.
Right, agitate. I don't use that word, but I'm going to put that in my back pocket because that's great.
Yeah,
So once we do that, once we organize the content, then it becomes really evident where everything needs to go, because we actually look at the flow. And this is where I'm always talking, I seem to be the only one who does this. I visualize a website as not a two-dimensional page and a bunch of two-dimensional pages. I think of it as a sculpture or an experience where I'm diving through it. And I might go down this page for a little bit, but then I'm going to leap in here and get to the spot that I want. And if I didn't dive in at this spot, like the call now or book now,
yeah,
I'm probably going to need to dive a little bit further down and get a little bit more information and then dip into something else and then make that call to action. So I might, depending on where I am in my buyer's journey, I might want that call right away. Oh yeah, this person connects with what I'm looking for, and the brand is speaking to me, and I want to work with them. That might be
yeah,
like an instant thing. But more likely than not, if you're running any kind of ads, traffic ads, then you're probably going to want to capture people at the sign up for my newsletter phase or the join us on the Facebook
Yeah.
phase, which is more warming up your audience. So you need to have
Yeah.
spaces for those places, and you don't want them all at the same spot. So
Yeah.
typically, somebody who needs more information to be warmed up is going to go further down and through the pages a little bit more than somebody who's ready to buy, who's actually going to dip out of the homepage quickly and go straight to the services page generally, and really read that thoroughly to make sure that they understand, and then book now or buy now or whatever it is that they do. So that's
Yeah.
sort of how the two, I mean, I know that there are lots of different stages of the buyers, but I usually focus on the two, the cold to warm and the warm to buy. And when I'm starting with especially new websites or smaller businesses or things like that, because those are the two things that we need to keep on. And then the more marketing budget that you have, then you can concern yourself with more phases of that buyer's journey.
Yeah, it's generally the middle is going to be built out with content over time that'll come up as
Yeah,
questions come from the
that's right.
client. But yeah, from
That's right.
initially starting, it's just like you said, it's just getting what's their initial impression of the website, and then also it's like if they're coming back, they've made some decisions. How are they actually going to close the deal, get a hold of you, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we come back with the two homepage design ways, and usually sometimes they're more similar than not, and sometimes they're very different. It really just depends on how we understood the design, and how excited the designer is to do different kinds of things, or and then we ask for feedback at that time. So we're like, did we get all the stuff that you were expecting on the homepage? Is the call to action correct? Do you agree that all of these pieces need to be here in this order? Is there something that has bigger priority? I'll ask about that, but generally, I've never we do that for the client, because the client's not really thinking in the same ways about user experience as designers are. And
Yeah.
then what we'll do, and usually what happens is the client will say, "Oh, we really like this page, but we like this image, or the way that you did this hero image here better." So then we can just plop it on. It works usually
Yeah.
fairly well. You could just say, "Oh yeah, we'll do this part, and that part," and then the designer will go back and adjust the design accordingly. There may be some extra changes in terms of where the buttons are, or where the navigation is. If we're making, if we're going to change a hero image, sometimes that changes where the navigation goes and such. Excuse me. So then once we get that finalized, then we pretty much have enough design information from the homepage to be able to build out the rest of the site quite easily. So
Yeah.
that takes, so basically the first design, usually I tell my clients we're going to take between um, about 2 to 3 weeks, and then I try and get it under 2 weeks if I can. That's usually what I do. And then I give them about a week for feedback. You don't want to leave it with the client for too long. And I always include a weekend in that, so that small business owners have a chance to really sort of take a look where there's with fresh eyes when they're away from their business.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Like when you're actually doing the homepage review, you're going to want to really get a lot of feedback. That's where a lot of feedback is more valuable, because if you wait until the rest of the site is done and then you give back that valuable picky feedback, be picky up front, not at the end, because it's a lot harder to change at the end. So if there are people, and in my instructions, my little email, I always say, this is where you bring in your stakeholders. Have you got a friend that you want their opinion on it? Have you got a partner? Have you got a staff member who might, want to give their 2 cents? Like the 2 cents should not come um, when the development has happened. Like we don't want
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of 2 cents at that point. So we want to have all of the design changes, everything really well organized and understood, because it means that we've really understood your business by the time you're approving designs in the PDF format. And then once we've got the okay for the homepage, then we build out, as I said, the rest of the site. And then what we do is we get that sign off on that, and then we go to development, and that usually takes about 2 weeks. in our
Yeah.
process. Takes about 2 weeks, and then we have a draft that's not live, and we'll show that draft, and that's where we want um, really good eyes, really close eyes. Oh, I thought that this photo was going to be different. That kind of eyes. Oh, there's a typo here. We're looking for that kind of really close um, review, and generally we can catch most of the typos and stuff like that at that point. Hopefully there aren't that many. Sometimes a name will escape us, that kind of thing, or a date will escape us. But and sometimes the photos, we've had some photos that have been still placeholders, just because it's been a glitch in our system where the project manager has not delivered the approved photos to developer in time before the developer threw up the placeholder. And it's not a
Yeah.
problem, that can be swapped out super easily. That's the beauty of WordPress and a lot of the other websites at this point now too.
Oh, I was gonna say there's a pro tip
Yeah.
for that as well that I've done. If you do the paid tier of Screaming Frog, it does spell checks and grammar checks across the website for you, and it
Oh,
pulls that
that's good
in,
to
and it's one of the
know. That is a
tabs.
good
Is
tip.
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't
So
used
it
that.
and it's only
The
at like it's
clients don't
100.
need to do that.
No, no, no. It's for any
But if you're
person
building
building the
your own,
website, and you
yeah,
just scan the whole thing, find all the spelling mistakes, grammar
yeah,
mistakes. It's pretty
that's
quick to
great.
do that as well. So yeah,
That's
just
great.
pro, and it's like it's 150 pounds, British pounds, a year for it. So it's like it's a
Oh, that's
pretty
pretty good.
cheap.
Oh
That's
yeah, I'll
for
get
a
that.
license. That's pretty good.
That's good. Yeah, I
So
haven't used that before, but that's good. I just used the free one
yeah,
for some
that's
SEO
one of
stuff.
the paid part has like a couple extra bonuses, and that's one of them. And it's just
Yeah,
like, oh, that's
great.
actually pretty good for a bonus when you're doing like a website scan and just helping the client with mistakes. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then the next step after development, we show the draft, we get feedback on the draft, and that should really take just a couple of days. Usually, that's it. And oh, before I send it to the client, I have the designer check to make sure that the integrity of the design has not shifted, because sometimes you don't always get exactly what you want in WordPress. Sometimes there's no point in doing custom coding just so you can have a few extra pixels over.
yeah,
So it's very close. It's very close, but and not even different enough that the clients actually really register the difference. Um,
yeah.
so that
I would
works,
just
and
also
that's
say, I would just say to that. Sorry, it's just that there also people have to remember that there's like 30 different screen sizes out there in
yeah,
general.
yeah,
So
that's
like
right, that's
everything
right,
has to like make adjustments, and so it's never going to be
that's right.
perfectly consistent. And like I'm on a bigger size computer, and the client might look at it on their laptop, and it might look entirely different. And that's just something you have to look at with the client about, and
Yes,
making sure that you
yes.
know what they're looking at it on.
Yes, so that's a sort of the next step. So once we get the designer loving the main site, on we use the 15-inch screen as our base, and then we go out from there. And
Yeah,
so what happens is I actually work on a 13-inch screen, so I usually see any problems right away. Um, because it's really funny, almost all menus drop down for me. So like a lot of menus drop down, and I
yeah,
don't like that. But so we'll check it on iPad, we'll check it on some major phones, and we'll check it. So usually we try and do two stylings, one for desktop computers, laptops, and one for mobile devices. Sometimes we need
yeah,
to do a third one in there because it's just doesn't work very well. But generally, we can get away with two, which is nice.
yeah.
And
Oh, makes sense.
yep, yeah. And then once you have that sign off, then we migrate. There are either two things: either it's a brand new site and your hosting is ready, and we just take away the splash page or the construction page, whatever
Yeah,
you think of that
yeah.
as.
Maintenance
Um,
splash,
yeah, the
whatever.
maintenance
Yeah, yeah,
page, whatever you call it. If it's replacing another site, there is a lot more technical detail. That this is why your second site is always going to cost you more than your first site ever did, because you have to do things like all the technical stuff. So we're going to do the on-page SEO. We're going to check if you've had a site. We're going to check the site and make sure that that's really what we want to be ranking for, and make sure that's been done before. We'll make adjustments at that point. If it's a brand new site, we'll definitely put some on-page SEO on all of your pages there for you. But we also have to do 301 redirects. We migrate the site over to your hosting. That's what we do. So it works like this. You have a domain and you have a site. You need to move your site files to the new hosting or the current hosting, whichever it is. If you're going with our new hosting, it could
Yeah.
be a new space, it could be your space. And then if the domain was already pointed there, it should just be fine. And if it's not, then we need to point. If your domain was pointed somewhere else and we're giving you new hosting, then you need to point the domain over to that hosting to make it live. And that's kind of the end of it. There may be a domain transfer that needs to happen depending on your hosting and what your situation is. Sometimes that can take 5 days afterwards to do. Um,
Yeah.
and that's usually pretty much it. And I've skipped out any kind of process that has to do with email because that can be complicated and quite different and quite boring, so I'm not going to discuss that today.
Yeah.
But the gist is we will check your email, make sure we know where it's hosted, make sure that we've got a solution for you. Either we're going to change that out to a new hosting. If you're on cPanel hosting especially, we usually change people out because cPanel hosting is not desirable, less and less every year. And
Yeah.
we'll get you on a different kind of service. And then we'll ask again for a final sign off because in the migration process, sometimes something can get thrown off a little bit there. It's been a long time since I've seen that happen, but in the olden days, like even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, there would quite often be something that's thrown off.
Yeah. I just looked at a website that was a brand new website, and their Search Console said they had 10,000 404s because they had
Oh
changed it and not set up
no.
a redirect. So,
Oh
uh,
no. Yeah, we don't want that.
no, we definitely
We
don't
try to
want that.
avoid
That's
that.
bad.
The redirects are when we do from an old site to a new site. That's why that's so important because you don't want 404s because you'll tank your SEO. So if you've had a site up online for like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, chances are even with doing nothing, you've done something with SEO because SEO kind of works on its own in a way.
Yeah.
So you probably have your pages ranking in some form or another. And you've got indexed those little SERPs, those little, when you do a search on Google, those line items are called SERPs. And they have, they're there for you too. Even if they're not on the first or second or third or even 10th page, they're there for you too. And in case somebody happens to wander upon one of yours by some random search that they do that you're ranking for, you don't want them to come to a 404 number. That would be such a shame. So we want to make sure that we don't lose that traffic. Plus,
Yeah.
all of
Oh,
your
and
old social, I had this happen with social posts, sorry, social posts. If you don't do 404s
oh,
on your
yeah, yeah,
blog or you don't transfer your blog over,
yeah.
all of your social media gets 404'd and it is brutal. I watched a client do that. She did not take my advice. She did not buy the thing that I told her to buy. She worked with a company that didn't know how to do that properly. Even if you're not going to take all your blog articles over, which I guess I get it, but I wouldn't suggest it.
It's
You
dangerous. It's
still
very
want that
dangerous.
traffic. You still
Yeah.
want that traffic.
Well,
Unbelievable.
and
Anyways,
just to clarify as well, is a 404 is like it's just a code you get when you get to a page, and it basically 400s are something's broken, 300s are something that's been directed, and then 200s are everything's okay. And so
yeah, and
200s are
500s, your server's down.
yeah, 500s are something that's very wrong, and
Yes, you have
yeah,
to
but
call somebody on your team.
yeah. Yeah, basically, well, the way they put it is 400s are you've asked for the wrong page. 500s are
Yeah.
they cannot serve that page.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
depending on who's making the request. It's like no, you made a bad request. That's 400. 500 is they're having some issues and they'll get back to you. Uh,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, just to clarify that part as well. Yeah, and I guess it's definitely super important to just set up. Google, number one thing, Google hates broken links. That's kind of the biggest thing
Yes.
is that they
Number one.
hate broken links. They don't like pages that aren't working anymore.
So what
So
that means is when you decide you don't want something on your website, you cannot just delete it or put it to draft form. You actually have to have a plan of where you're going to take that
yeah,
traffic to. So it might be a similar page that deals with the similar content, or it might just be your homepage.
yeah.
Similar
It,
content always works best.
I mean, yeah, it's always better to point it to somewhere that matches what the thing was that's going away. But like
Yeah,
homepage is still a viable option, you know, in a pinch, and you
yeah,
just need to. It's better to send it to the homepage than it is to have it broken. Is basically the way that I would summarize that. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so I guess we've covered all the way up to the migration and getting it
That is
live. I guess
11:30.
it is 11:30. I guess the last thing, just quickly, that we should mention is you also want to test all your forms, all your checkouts
Oh,
before.
yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
That goes without saying. Yes, after it's
yeah,
migrated, that's the thing that we do between getting sign off with the client. And I
yeah,
also suggest that the clients test so that they're sure and they know that we've done it correctly because yeah, because sometimes things break after you've tested them, they will break and then I don't want to hear about it like
yeah,
later,
yeah,
6 months
yeah,
later.
exactly. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. So yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear as well, just because I've done
yeah.
that where I accidentally had still in testing mode for a checkout. I managed to catch it before anything went terribly wrong, but
Oh, wow,
it's
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, everyone's done it once of like the
Yeah,
form didn't get wasn't working properly for whatever reason.
yeah.
You know, whatever it is, we've all been there, and just the thing to keep in mind is, yeah, going forward, you just don't want to just test everything before you're launched and ready for the everyone in the world.
And test everything always, like
Yeah,
just because like this software is always updating, right? So if it's always updating, then you always have to test it, test your pages, check your sites regularly, check your forms, your booking. I mean, I can't tell you how many people come to me and say my form's not working, I haven't gotten an email for 6 months. I'm like, you can't let it go for
six.
a whole 6 months. That's a lot of lost business potentially, right?
Yeah,
So check
yeah.
your form. I have somebody who checks all of our client forms every month, if they're part of our maintenance package.
Nice, nice. Yeah. We usually have it get stored to like a backup to like either a Google Sheet or a database. So if it gets filled
Oh
out
yeah,
and maybe the
good.
client doesn't get it, at least we can
Yeah,
go,
we
hey,
have that
hey,
too.
hey,
Yeah, we
you
have
have
that
that.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
So
use Contact 7, I think, is the form that we use. And I actually bought an unlimited license for all of my clients. So they don't really get a choice anymore because I got really tired of having to troubleshoot those forms and fixing them.
yeah,
It was just a pain in the butt. So that solved my problem.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that covers everything.
All right. What's
And
happening next week? Do we know? Do you have it up? Because I forgot to pull it up again. Oh,
uh,
is next week the. No, next week is not.
no, that is I'm totally prepared for this.
I'm sorry. I know. I should actually
Uh,
stop asking you because that's totally unfair.
I well, no, I think it's. I believe it is. It's going to be Pip and Rena talking about insights into marketing. Discover the key traits
Oh,
and skills of succeeding as a marketer. And Pip
oh
is dancing
goodness.
beside me out of
Okay.
frame, so you guys can't
And
see it, but she was
so
dancing.
that's like a 3 hour session, right? Three
Yeah,
hour
yeah,
session?
yeah, yeah,
Because
exactly.
that's going to be a lot to cover in 30 minutes. And Pip and I are both chatty on this topic.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I could summarize it
can
and
hear her
probably.
laughing in the background.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All
Uh,
right, thanks for joining us. We are in the Cyberpunk Geek Marketing
Cyberpunk
Mixer.
marketing mixer.
Oh,
Yes.
are you serious? Cyberpunk Marketing Mixer Facebook private page. If you're watching this elsewhere, you can always come back to where you are. But if you'd like to join us in the group, please do. We're here every Thursday at 11 to 11:30. And we'll see you
Yeah.
next week for some more fun.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.